Welcome to a special Toronto Maple Leafs Media Day availability with Brad Treliving. He's going to be discussing tomorrow night's NHL draft for the Toronto Maple Leafs to see who we're going to get. So let's hear what he has to say. Hope you enjoy this. And with me myself, I'll let you hear this update from the GM of the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Off Gentle, non-sticky, and fragrance-free mosquito protection.
Just before we get going, I do want to congratulate and acknowledge two former Leafs in Alexander McGillney and Joel Thornton, who were recently inducted into the Hall of Fame. So tremendous honor for two great players. So congratulations to them and their families on a great honor. Fire away.
Brad, you said the last time we met, you used the term change the DNA of this team. Can you kind of describe what that might look like, starting with the draft, through free agency, and of course over the summer, because the work's never done?
Yeah, I heard that kind of got some. Boy, that was the gotcha. Again, I think I said it at the same time, Kevin, it's not about airlifting in 20 new bodies, right? You have to continue to evolve. It's a mindset as much as anything. And that's what we'll continue to do. Obviously, there's going to be roster change. There always is every year. You need everything to be successful. You need skill, you need talent, but it's ultimately it's that competitiveness, and we see it. We've seen it here the last month here, or recently over the last few weeks, and in the remainder of the playoffs. We see it every spring and every April, May, and June in the playoffs. So we want to continue to build that.
Brad, do things stand with Mitch?
Do you think? Sorry?
Where do things stand with
I wouldn't say a whole lot of change right now. Obviously, we're approaching free agency. We've had communication. I'd probably describe it, unless there's, a significant change here. I would anticipate that he's going to hit the market, and we'll see where things go.
What are the chances you could get something for his rights before July 1?
Yeah, we'll see how everything goes.
Do you expect to meet with him on July 1?
Sorry?
Do you expect to meet with him next camp?
We've had communications on a regular basis, so we'll see how everything plays out.
Are you confident, Brad, that you can get Tavares and/or Nyes done before Tuesday?
Yeah, well, obviously with John, there's a deadline, right? We've had lots of communication. I would say you're always a little bit hesitant to frame it. I'm trying to give as much information as can. But it's been positive, right? As I think we said at the end of the year, you've got a player who we both expressed a shared outcome, which is John wants to stay, and we want to keep John. And like any contract, there's only usually just two little stumbling blocks: term and money. Once you get by those, usually things flow pretty quick. So we're moving, hopefully in a direction to bring it to closure. My hope is until proven otherwise that we'll have a good outcome there. Matthew, same sort of thing. Lots of communication. Not the same deadline necessarily, but it goes without saying, Matthew's going to make more than what he's making now in his next contract. And you also want to protect yourself moving into the summer. Past July 1, we all know we want to make sure we're protected. I don't anticipate, I'm sure the next question is going to be an offer sheet. That's not anything you can operate in fear with, but you have to do proper business. So we're very hopeful that it'll get to a good conclusion. When that is, time will tell.
What sort of challenge is it for you as the GM when you're going into an off season and Marner's set to test the market, a core piece? Like, what sort of challenge does that present to you?
Well, you're trying to make your team better, and you've got the potential's there to lose a really good player. So lots of challenges, but we try to look at it as use those as opportunities as well, right? So that's the job. Everybody's focused on July 1st, and I get it. We don't play on July 2nd, so you use the time starting on July 1st to try to make your team better. And that may come in July 1st, it may come August 1st, September 1st. You're not sure. So continue to work the market, and but certainly some challenges. Really good player. And I think I said this before too. There's not a Mitch Marner tree that you go to and just replace him. So if that indeed happens, we'll continue to look at ways that we can help ourselves.
What's your number one priority in free agency?
We'll see when we get there, right? You got to see what's available in free agency. I think it probably dovetails a little bit in Mark's question. Obviously, with Mitch going, if Mitch is going, then everything that he does, right? As well as trying to get better. So we look at all positions.
What sort of opportunity, you mentioned there's opportunities as well as challenges. What sort of opportunities does it present when you have a player like that maybe leaving the organization?
Well, I don't know if it's an opportunity when he's leaving. It's, there's cap space available. So that leads us to how you're going to use that, right? So those are the things you have to look at.
To that end with cap space, Don Waddell said this morning, Brad, that in his opinion, just because a player was worth $3 million last year, the cap going up does not automatically then make him worth $4 million. I'm sure you would tend to agree with that. How do you push back against players who in contracts negotiations feel that because there's more space, I am now worth more?
Well, that's the rub, right? Obviously, with the cap going up, each player looks at how that affects them and how that affects their value. Again, it's always a puzzle, right? So as much as we could say there's cap space available, there's going to be cap space allotted. There's going to be more cap space allotted to Matthew Nyes next year, whatever that number is, than he had this year. So it's allocating the dollars, but that's the question, or the answer to your question is really the essence of that negotiation, and the push and the pull is trying to find the value that you think fits for that certain player, and then obviously it's got to work for the player side too.
As you look at, as you maybe review the season now, like whatever, a month or 6 weeks after you're over, do you look at the team any differently, that there was the only one to push Florida to 7 games over the course of 4 rounds?
Yeah, I don't necessarily look at the games. Like I said, when the best team won, I think that was very clear. The best team won the Stanley Cup this year, and there was lots of good things that we did, right? And you see it for every team that loses. Dallas made it to, I talked to Jimmy, Dallas made it to, was their 3rd straight conference final, and you feel like, when you lose, you miss the playoffs for the last 5 years, right? So the disappointment and the negativity when you finish sometimes increases as further you go. So you have to keep everything in perspective. There was lots of good things, but like I said, whether we lost in 5, 6, or 7, I don't think you can get hung up on the number. The best team won the cup, and now we've got to find a way to continue to make ourselves better.
Understanding you inherited a lot of these contracts, but with all the no trade, no move clauses, how seriously does the organization need to look at how easily it hands those out?
Well, I don't know. I think that's a very general statement, Luke. I think in any contract, I'm not here to throw a rock, it's easy to look back in hindsight. When the contracts are getting done, sometimes those are mechanisms as a negotiation to get a contract done, right? So you certainly always like to have as much flexibility with a contract as possible. So those are those are never viewed as something that you just give out for the sake of giving out, but I think that they're easier to look back in retrospect than it is to really dig into why whatever trade protection was given was given.
How much does experience weigh in on priorities for free agency? We saw a lot of older players really excel in the playoffs this year.
How much does...
The experience, looking for experienced players in those critical moments.
Yeah.
Every time you touch me, I feel energy.
Enjoy Mother Nature's energy with fresh Peruvian organic ginger. No fillers, just flavor.
Yeah, I mean, experience, I think you always have to balance everything, like experience, youth, I think the league is getting younger and younger. I don't think it is I don't think it's a coincidence that a lot of times you see that team that's finishing at the end. I don't know, you see a ton of rookies on those teams. So that it does play a factor, but it's all balanced too, right? Like there's a lot of things young players can bring to a lineup. You're seeing young players play earlier now than you did years ago. The energy and everything that they bring. So I don't think you can just blanket it and say, okay, you need a bunch of guys that are, a bunch of graybeards, right? It's all balance, right? And ultimately, it's like any position you look at. Okay, what's available, what fits, and what's the cost, and then certainly experience plays a role in it. So you can never have too much experience, but you've got to balance it as well.
What are the chances you move up in the draft, and how difficult is a decentralized draft? What are the challenges to picking trades when everybody's all over the place?
Yeah. We've had a little bit of experience, right? We were talking about the other day. I don't remember. It doesn't seem that long ago, but sometimes it seems like it was a long time ago. You're missing the personal contact, right? Where you could get up and walk down the table and talk to one of the guys. So that's probably a little bit of challenge. But we've got phones. We'll I don't anticipate it being a problem. As far as moving up at 64, we'll see. I think that Mark will speak to it in a little bit, but the guys are well positioned here. Looking at move down scenarios, potentially more than move up. But you just see how it all unfolds.
There's no draft floor that you don't have to not be at anymore.
Yeah. Well, the advantage is it's a little bit of the timing more than anything else, right? You're usually in the draft city Friday, Saturday, and then you got to travel back. Everything's jammed up, right? You got free agency right behind it. But there is, the draft is I love the draft, right? And you got everybody in one location, but within the room, you're not confined to that table where you really can't talk to anybody. Now you've got the ability to sort of move around and speak to people more easily than you would in the normal setting.
How much is your phone ringing these days versus a normal year? Is it?
Yeah, normal. There's normal conversations. I mean, obviously there's been, we've seen all the transactions that are taking place, but I would call it normal, Mark, in terms of the communication. Lots of it going on.
You've got a handful of other
prospects and picks.
Sorry?
Are you willing to move prospects and picks given the trade scenarios presented? How open are you to that?
Yeah. And in a general comment, I'd say we're open to everything, right? But again, it's got to make sense. So we're not just going to shuffle out, a prospect for the sake of a prospect, but we're looking at all sorts of scenarios. At the end of the day, it's got to fit from a roster standpoint, dollar standpoint, and value standpoint.
You've got some other RFAs beyond that. Would we expect to see Nick and Pontus get qualifying offers, or is it just routine business for you?
Yeah, we'll get to that. We've been, we've with any of our free agents, we've talked to them. Some of them, again, a lot, and this is nothing against any of the other players. There's been more, the UFA guys, with the timeline, you're spending probably more time there. But we've certainly been engaged with any of the guys that do contracts.
Does that include Lawrence and Pacioretty?
Yeah. Yeah, everybody we've talked to, or everybody that's up, we've talked to, and have a feeling on what either side is, whether they're going to come back, whether they're not going to come back. But those that we're engaged with, we have a little bit of a sense where they're at.
Is your sense that Pacioretty wants to keep playing hockey?
I think so. Yeah, I do. I believe that he does. I don't want to speak for him, but I've talked with Alan, and certainly, after him getting away for a bit, that he feels that he wants to keep on.
Do you still see a fit for Nick Robertson here?
Yeah, I think Nick's a good player. Again, we're June, whatever we are, right? So the puzzle's got to come into place. But I think Nick's a good player, right? He's still a young player. He's still an evolving player, but he's got his skill set he shoots at the net, right? And that's a good skill set to have. So again, we'll see how it all plays out. But we're early days here. But Nick's a great kid and like I said, possesses a real good skill set.
Why is Amazon paying me $600 a day? Because I use Amazon AI. I'm going to show you a way to potentially make money by pairing Amazon with the power of AI without ever selling physical products. And I promise you've never heard about this before. I just created some simple digital products. Then I put them up on Amazon, and it was so exciting. The first time I tried it, I made $14, and I was like, oh my goodness, this actually works. Hi, I'm Carla Marie, and the coolest part is Amazon puts over